Ladies and gentlemen, episode number 24 of Sorrow Eternal, the podcast. I am Hell22. I am seated in proximity to Murmaider.
What's up, guys?
We are back again and kind of quiet in here today. No special guests.
Nope.
Christine is not asleep in the headquarters. Duct Tape, I think, is actually at his Navy cuddle session. Chester is working. And the scenario is fist pumping like a champ, I'm sure. So we want to get right into it. We've got a topic we want to discuss today, so we want to get some of these reviews out of the way. Yep. Murmaider, you had a review this week for the new Machine Head album. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me a little about this album?
I actually really like the album.
You did?
Yeah, for a thrash metal, a more newer thrash metal. I mean, they had a couple, I want to say, hardcore areas in the song with certain breakdowns and certain vocals, but they also had a lot of heavy growling, and they even had some clean singing that I didn't know that they did a lot of clean singing. But I mean, it's definitely a well written album, and I would definitely check it out. There's a lot of crazy double bass going on. Like I said, the growling was very impressive. I really liked it. It seems like they tried a lot of different things with this album than their last album, The Blackening. But, waiting 4 years for this to come out, I'm sure a lot of fans have been dying to hear this. So I would definitely suggest checking out Machine Head.
Now, you weren't really a big fan of theirs before, right? Not that you didn't like them. But...
Yeah, no, I just never really took the time to listen to them. I listened to The Blackening a little bit, but I wasn't really into heavier thrash metal at the time. I think I was listening more towards power metal and Dragon Force. Really, I think that is about 2007 is about the time I listened to Dragon Force. But no, I think you should check it out. I think you'd really like it.
Well, it's on my list. I really enjoyed The Blackening, which was the first Machine Head album that I had really enjoyed. Yeah. So I'll definitely it's on my list.
It kind of reminded me a little bit of Chimera. Some of the style of their growling and stuff like that.
Interesting.
And a friend of mine, George, he really likes Chimera, so I told him to check out Machine Head, and I just talked to him the other day, and he said he loves the album, and he wants to go back and check out all the older Machine Head stuff, and so, I mean, it's heavy. It's definitely heavy. But now you did a review this week. Myrath was the name of the band.
Yep, and I think my whole take on the album was that metal as a form of music really has no boundaries whatsoever. So this is a band from Tunisia, which is a country in the north of Africa. The Dizzy Gillespie song "Night in Tunisia" is obviously about that. And these guys put together an album that I probably played over and over again, probably 4 or 5 times in a row, because I was so blown away with what I was listening to. Name of the album is Tales of the Sands, and the band was started by the guitar player when he was 13 years old. And they started out as a cover band for the band Death. Then they evolved into a Symphony X cover band, which is, as you pointed out, a pretty huge jump.
Yeah.
And then they decided to make their own music. And I think that I'm not going to say it pains me to say this, but I didn't expect to be saying that I think this album absolutely destroys the Symphony X album this year.
Really?
Yep. It is so ridiculous, and it's like taking all of the best aspects of Orphaned Land and putting it into a progressive power metal album. All of like the native instruments and a lot of like the weird instrumentation and stuff. The singer, his voice is absolutely off the charts. His range is amazing. I just think it's a ridiculous album. I absolutely suggest checking this one out, because you would be very, very, very disappointed if you didn't.
Wow.
So that's my big thumbs up. They're going to end up making my top 10 list, I believe, at the end of the year. They're certainly going to be in the top 10 for the second half,
right.
And I really think they're going to make my top 10 for the year. I can't say enough about this album.
Really? I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah, you definitely got to check it out. I think you will be very happy with it.
Huh.
Now, you did another review this week for a band that I had never heard of, called Solution 45.
Yep. They came out with the album last year in 2010, and it's their only album out right now. They're pretty fairly new. I think the band was created in 2008, and it's interesting to listen to it because there's kind of like a dark power metal vocal to it, like it's a clean vocal, but it's like in a like an eerie kind of way. It's weird, and I mean it kind of grew on me, and it's more just that I've never really heard it. I don't know how to describe it, but you'd have to hear it. And of course they change things up between that and a lot of heavy growling in between. They actually do a lot of verses where they go back and forth between growling and clean singing.
Interesting.
And I mean it's really dark, heavy music, and I don't even know the genre that you'd call it. I mean it's definitely got progression and almost like melodic death metal, I guess you could say.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, I looked them up, and you know, they were labeled under death metal, and which a lot of bands do when they're not trying to be too specific. But yeah, when I listened to the album, it actually it caught my ear, and I found it to be pretty interesting. Some interesting solos. The guitar work was pretty impressive. I really liked that, and the drums, the bass were really heavy, and yeah, no, I mean, I would definitely keep an eye out for these guys. They have a lot of potential, and I feel like we'll be hearing from them again soon. Hopefully with a new project of some sort. Like I said, this album came out last year, so who knows? They might be already working on something new. So.
Yeah, I think I read on their site that they were working on something.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's good, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Now we have another one that you did last week. The band was called Old Silver Key.
Yep. Now this one, honestly, I kind of stumbled upon it. Once again, not.
Yeah.
I stumbled upon it, and it's the lead singer of Alcest, basically the main man of Alcest, Neige.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And he is combined with the kind of, I'll call them the legendary black metal group, Droog.
Okay.
Yeah.
Drooged.
And basically, it's that entire band plus him, but it's not like their band. It's not like Alcest. It's basically a melodic post-black metal rock album. I really don't know how to describe it. I kind of found myself lost because they describe themselves as post-rock because they couldn't really find another way to describe what they do. But
right.
There's definitely some like black metal style drumming in there. There's some black metal kind of the guitars, the really fast picking on the guitars.
Uh-huh.
But his voice is exactly as you would expect it, but it's completely melodic. No screams, no screeches, all clean singing. And I was really impressed by it. And I don't even know that I would consider it, a metal album by definition, but it was such a strong album. And there's some really, really strong instrumental work there. And I definitely check it out. The album's called Tales of Wandering. Just came out through Season of Mist Records. You should definitely check that out. Let's face it, whatever the guy does seems to be good.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to not listen to it.
Well, I noticed that, I don't know, more recently, bands that I've been discovering are harder to put an exact genre on them.
Which is good, because they're kind of transcending the genres.
Right, yeah.
I think that's one of the dangers, and we don't want to go off on a tangent here as we have in the past, but, if you kind of pigeonhole yourself into one genre, if you come out and it's basically, we're a death band,
right,
then everyone can kind of assume, okay, well, they're a death band, I know what I'm going to get.
Right.
Whereas if you go outside of that, at least, you kind of keep people guessing, and it's a little more interesting.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that actually next week, because one of the reviews I have coming up after this podcast is kind of one of those bands who tried to do that and failed.
Uh-huh.
We'll get back to that next week. Remember to remind me about that, folks. But anyway, we're going to hit our topic here, and we've pushed this back numerous times because we had to talk about Opeth, and we talked about Dream Theater and Mastodon. So we're going to be picking our band of the month soon for October, and we'll be talking about that next week. So this week we're going to get this out of the way. We're finally going to talk about album artwork.
Yes.
There's so much to talk about in relation to this.
Mm-hmm.
We picked a couple bands, artists who we really think do artwork right. I think there's a couple bands that don't do it very well at all. Mm-hmm. And then there's those, I'm not going to call them stereotypes, but kind of rules of thumb, where if you see a certain something on the album artwork, you can kind of guess what the album is going to be like.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So Murmaider, we might as well just start where I know you want to start. Let's talk about Mastodon's album artwork, because I know you're a fan.
Yeah. Well, I love their artwork. Their first 4 albums were all done by a certain artist that Paul Romano was his name, and that is like a huge factor in what made me even like look at their CD before I knew them. Was I found the artwork to be so interesting and so like strange at the same time, and it's really unique. And after that, of course, they did the new album, The Hunter, which is a little different than what they've been doing, but it goes with their music, I guess you could say, the way that they are kind of out there, and some of the things that they do, like with Crack the Sky and everything, and how psychedelic it is. I would say the artwork is kind of psychedelic in the same way, or trippy. But I mean, I love the artwork there.